Welcome classic rock fans to a cold November morning where I was up at the crack of dawn just to watch the third instalment of Peter Jackson's opus on the Fab Four. And I must say at the end of it all, that 7-hour climb to the rooftop has been pretty damn exhausting. And needless to say, this is not for the faint of heart, it's for hardcore Beatles fans only. I wouldn't be showing this to my wife, not unless, in the words of Quentin Tarantino in Pulp Fiction, I'd be getting a divorce. However, I would like to see a trimmed down version, probably about 2 hours 30 minutes, culminating in the rooftop gig, to share with my wife and children. And that's not to say I don't want this footage out there. I don't want this 8-hour opus on Blu-ray when it comes out, which I will certainly be buying it. I hope there's lots of footage on there that wasn't included in the film. And that comment allows me to conveniently segue into the point of this video, the third part of my assessment of Peter Jackson's film, of course. And that is, what are they not showing us? Peter Jackson, of course, is responsible for lovingly restoring that First World War footage. It seems apt now that he turns his attention to another fractious ending, in a way, and that is the finale of the Fab Four. Another historical event which has become the stuff of myth and legend, with lots of Beatles fans no doubt reeling from the effects of PTSD. And the festering body of myth and rumour that surrounded these recordings has been constantly shelled and bombarded from Camp McCartney and Oh No Lennon, probably. Ironically, I think McCartney's been very much the driving force behind this. He seems to be very much concerned about his own legacy, or perhaps he's just looking forward to putting a few old bones to rest. Certainly all the books I've read on the Beatles seem to suggest that McCartney is the driving force within this band from Sgt. Pepper onwards. In fact, one book I read recently for my Revolver album review suggests from Revolver onwards. But it seems that this whole thing was supposed to be a healing and unifying exercise, a stark exercise in stripping away everything, returning to the band's earlier days where they played in a very unaffected manner, stripped of all those beeps and whooshes of studio gadgetry. And the whole thing filmed by young TV director Michael Lindsay Hogg had a Beatles at Work documentary style theme going on here. But I guess it just revealed much more than it was supposed to. So Peter Jackson's documentary takes us to the heart of the Beatles, 16 months, I think, after Brian Epstein's death. And we see McCartney in this documentary very much trying to control things. One commentator has said that he comes across as a maniacal gym teacher, but I think he just tried to harvest and gather some momentum as it seems the magical mystery tour here is completely rudderless. So what have we not been shown in this documentary? Of course, John Lennon had just left his wife Cynthia. And of course, he and Yoko Ono become somewhat preoccupied with this anti-war through conceptual art movement that they'd become embroiled in with their ideas and protests. I must admit the howls of derision aimed at John and Yoko at this time from the press were crudely racist and unpleasant. And for me, I happen to feel for Julian Lennon, the young boy at the heart of all this, his whole world turned upside down. I think he's one of the figures I feel the most for in this whole story, which makes the song Hey Jude incredibly moving for me, one of the most beautiful song in the Beatles canon. That is, of course, before the Beatles routinely turned it round and fired at one another. Interestingly, the Times has pointed out that the shrieks of disapproval over Lennon and Yoko Ono's relationship were somehow replaced the equally demented shrieks of Beatlemania some years earlier. We get George Harrison, who seems to be constantly feeling relegated, not getting his songs on the album, and Paul McCartney constantly pushing things up to that rooftop, of course. Of course, the Apple Business Corporation, which was, in the words of the Times again, it was set up in the haze of hippie idealism in 1968, was already overrun by con artists, freeloaders, and hemorrhaging millions. For me, I'm absolutely grateful that Billy Preston comes in because he helps relieve the tension, I think. Also, the rehearsal space that they play in at Twickenham, 7,500 square feet of rehearsal space, I believe. It is incredibly eerie and icy. A very stark reminder of happier times where the Beatles actually filmed Help and Hard Day's Night. It just comes across as enormously chilly. Rather appropriate, I think. Another thing that we're not shown, really, I think there was a lot more footage on it, was them discussing the Alan Klein, which was something that McCartney was vehemently against. I don't know why, really. I don't know what McCartney's point is. I mean, Alan Klein seems like a lovely, warm-hearted chap that only has the artist and the artistic integrity of their music at the very core. I mean, certainly the Stones have never rued the day that they had anything to do with him. But there's no doubt that McCartney resented him thrusting his chubby accountant fingers into the apple pie. So this film is like a revisionist chronicle of the Beatles' dying moments in many respects, before they shoot off to different parts of the globe in search of inner contentment. And he's painstakingly trawled through 60 hours of footage to transform what was perceived as an acrimonious grind into something that is perhaps redeeming in a way. Of course, part one starts from arriving at Twickenham Studios. The atmosphere is fairly jovial, with John Lennon mewing A Child of Nature, and McCartney sits there puffing on a cigar as they work their way through All Things Must Pass. I mean, how poignant. Some other bits that seem to be fairly glossed over is John Lennon's heroin addiction at this point. Of course, he and Yoko give an interview for Canadian TV where he is ashen, pale-faced, visibly smacked out, and I think at one point actually throws up. I haven't seen it for many, many years, but obviously that doesn't need to be alluded to, or just his addiction in general. Also believe there was a lot more Yoko baiting going on. I don't know if that's true or not, whether it's been cut out. Pretty unpleasant stuff, but in the interest of stark honesty, maybe it would be better to keep it in. There was also the event that led to John Lennon and George Harrison coming to blows over Yoko Ono, which George Martin insists happened. Lindsay Hogg said it all began to feel like Sartre's No Exit, where the characters are trapped together in a room, uncertain as to why. And the Times has been very scathing of the whole thing, if you allow me to quote. So Jackson's Pollyanna thesis of smiling, happy, super creative Beatles falls apart at almost every scene. Just as Epstein turned 4 hard-boiled scousers into lovable mop-tops, it's as if Jackson had reverted to his Oscar-winning Hollywood milieu and tried to turn them into 4 cute, hairy hobbits. I don't agree with that at all. I think Jackson's done a wonderful job in restoring the footage and sound. We could argue over what's been cut out and how it's been edited to show something in a specific way. I'm hoping there'll be a lot of stuff that he didn't use. Perhaps the remaining 35 hours or so as a bonus footage on several Blu-rays. Not really, but at least some of it would be on there, which would be nice. Lennon said rather sardonically at the end of the project, "This is what we are like with our trousers off, so would you please end the game show?" Which is, of course, what happens. So what do we see in this final episode? I mean, it starts off quite beautifully, I think, with them in the studio, with George and Ringo thrashing out Octopus's Garden. There's also a very cute moment between John and Heather, which is Linda Eastman's daughter from her first marriage. That brings something to the session, the sense of childlike wonder that's rather infectious. You just can't help but laugh along with the band's interaction with her. She does a lot to lift the atmosphere as well, I think. And they run through Dig It before launching to Carl Perkins' Blue Suede Shoes. At 30 minutes 53, John announces that Yoko's divorce has gone through, and they make some celebration of that. I think Free at Last, he says, almost echoing Martin Luther King. And at 34 minutes 10, we get this lovely version of Strawberry Fields, which is overlaid. This is this montage of press cuttings about John Lennon and Yoko Ono. It's quite a moving and profound moment, I think. What is interesting in this is when they start thrashing out Something, which is a nice moment as well. The 19 minute mark, John starts telling the rest of the Beatles how fantastic Alan Klein is. I find myself bristling at that moment. And the hour 1 hour 24, of course, we get the beginning of the Rooftop gig, that legendary final public performance by the Beatles. And the songs are, Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, I've Got a Feeling, One After 909, I Dig a Pony, before they reprise and go over some of the songs again. Overall, I have to say this has been a fascinating look at the whole creative process of those last moments of this band. I think this has been a remarkable endeavour by Peter Jackson and all those involved. Anyway, what do you think? Is there anything that should have been in there that was left out? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, I shall leave it there. Thank you for tuning in. If you have been tuning into my 3-part review of this wonderful series as it's been airing on Disney+, just need to say I hope you're well, staying safe and warm, looking forward to Christmas, of course, but more importantly that you keep listening.